Hello and a warm welcome to Federal Special Program Capital Beat. On October 7th, militant organization Hamas fired rockets on Israel, unfolding unprecedented death and mayhem. On that particular incident, Prime Minister Narendra Modi put out a post saying that India stands with Israel in this dark hour. During that time, Israel had not begun its retaliatory strike. But on October 10th, when Israel started with its counter-offensive, Prime Minister Narendra Modi again put out a tweet saying that India expresses solidarity with Israel and in unequivocal terms condemns the terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. Now, people are asking, and especially the international experts and the people who follow diplomacy, they have been asking that is India's approach towards the Palestine-Israel issue a principled and a moral one? Joining me now is someone who's been a former aide to Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. He's also the founder of the Forum for New South Asia, powered by India, Pakistan, and China cooperation. I welcome Sudheendra Kulkarni on the Federal. So the first question is that the stand which the Indian government has taken, and if I may say, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has taken on the Israel and Palestine issue, what does it look like in the first glance? Why did he do so? Because people were also saying that why didn't the External Affairs Ministry, react first? Why did Prime Minister do so? And the stand which has been taken by him has put the MEA also in a quandary, it seems.
The Prime Minister's initial response as well as the second response completely articulate the sentiments of the people of India. He's right in saying that India condemns terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. And what happened on October 7 was indeed terrorism, and terrorism that was a very brutal kind. Hamas attacks on Israel, which reportedly have claimed about 1,000 lives. Most certainly, a majority of them were civilians and unarmed people. This must be condemned. But for every such development, and especially this one, there's a context. And it's the context that determines whether there are other dimensions to the development which need to be taken into account. Now, as far as the violence in Israel concerned, this is not a new one. Israel has been a place where violence of a very brutal kind has been taking place for decades, especially after the 1967 Arab-Israel war, which led to massive occupation of Palestinian land by Israel, and also annexation of East Jerusalem, which Palestinians have been protesting all along. In fact, the protest of Palestinians even dates back before 1967. So the context that I'm talking about is this, that the land that Israel is located on was originally Palestinian land. And all historical records, as well as the United Nations, clearly state that the Palestinians were evicted from their own land for the establishment of Israeli state. Now, when this dispute came to the United Nations for the first time in 1947, the United Nations decided that there shall be two states on that particular land, an independent Israeli state and an independent Palestinian state. 1948, Israel was founded, but Israel did not allow the establishment of an independent Palestinian state next to it. And that is the genesis of the whole problem. If we don't take this into account, then we will not understand what is happening today.
Mr.
And
Kulkarni,
throughout this
why do you think that Prime Minister is not wanting to look at this particular context, which is known by the world? Everyone knows about it. Even our earlier governments, whether it was Prime Minister Indira Gandhi or Jawaharlal Nehru or Atal Bihari Vajpayee, they have taken a very nuanced stand. So what is the reason for Prime Minister Narendra Modi to take this unilateral view about this whole Palestine and Israel issue?
I won't call what the previous governments have taken as a nuanced stand. I would call it a principled stand.
Okay.
A stand that is in conformity with the aspirations of both Palestinians and Israelis, and a stand that is in conformity with all the resolutions of the United Nations. And that is the two-state solution. India has always been in favor of a two-state solution, which after 1967, the United Nations has clearly stated that Israel should go back to the borders pre-1967 for the establishment of a Palestinian state, and East Jerusalem should become the capital of Palestine. Now, it is not just Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister, it's not just Indira Gandhi. There have been other governments belonging to other political parties, but there has been absolutely no change in India's stand as far as the two-state solution is concerned. India, even Modi government, has articulated its commitment to a two-state solution. In 2018, Prime Minister Modi visited Israel, but he also visited
Palestine. Yeah.
Palestine, that is the West Bank, and held meetings with the president, Mahmoud Abbas, president of Palestine Authority. And he said that we look for the day when there will be an independent Palestinian state.
So, Mr. Kulkarni,
there is no change.
Yes, but from 2018 and now 2023, what has changed for Narendra Modi to take this particular stand? If it is an amoral and it is an unprincipled stand which India has taken.
Now, before I come to answer this question, let me elaborate a little more on the historical background, because Indians must know what India's stand has been, including the stand of the BJP itself. Because today, many BJP supporters are, of course, they're condemning the Hamas terrorist action, which everybody should condemn, but they're keeping mum, or rather, in fact, defending Israelis' savage destruction of Gaza Strip that followed the terror attack on Israel by Hamas on October 7. But thereafter, what we are seeing is a picture of death and destruction in Gaza that is absolutely indiscriminate, and for which the Indian government, at least so far, has not reacted. So therefore, I would like to, in this discussion, bring some important pieces of information on India's stand. Let's go back to Mahatma Gandhi. As I said, this problem has its genesis even before 1947. In fact, soon after the First World War, Britain, which was a colonial power, which was an imperialist power, and like other imperialist powers of Europe, they carved out different parts of Africa, Asia, as if it all belonged to it. So it was their personal property. And Britain handed over this land of Palestine to Jews. Now, Palestinians were already living there for centuries. So we all know that before the Second World War, during the Second World War, the Jews were persecuted by Nazis in Germany, and many Jews had to therefore leave that place, and they found some place in Palestine. Now they have a right to exist there. This history cannot be undone. But similarly, even Palestinians have a right to exist. And which is why Mahatma Gandhi condemned the forceful eviction of Palestinians from their own land. And he said that Palestine belongs to Palestinians just as France belongs to the French people and England belongs to English people.
Right.
Thereafter, Nehru, both before he became Prime Minister and after he became Prime Minister, took a very principled stand that whereas the Jews have a right to have their own homeland, Palestinians also must have their own homeland. Then it's not just the Congress leaders, Gandhiji and Nehru. What about Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay? Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay was the foremost leader of the Bharatiya Janasangh, the previous avatar of the Bharatiya Janata Party. And even today, the Bharatiya Janata Party regards Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay as its ideological philosopher and guru. Now, in 1967, after the Arab-Israel war, he said, and this is something which I'm quoting verbatim from this book. This is
My life.
L.K. Advaniji's autobiography, My Country, My Life, page 147. He says, Deendayal Upadhyay said that there are some people who want us to take a pro-Israel stand just because Congress has taken a pro-Arab stand.
Right.
Now, we should not be blindly pro-Israel just because Congress has become blindly pro-Congress, pro-Arab. There are no angels on one side and devils on the other. We should judge every issue on its merit. So he was saying that blind support to Israel, even in 1967, was wrong. And who is saying this? Deendayal Upadhyay, the foremost leader of the Bharatiya Janasangh and
Right.
the ideological guru of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Now, after 1967, let's come to 1977, when the Janata Party government came into being in India. Morarji Bhai Desai became the Prime Minister, and Atal Bihari Vajpayee became the External Affairs Minister. In the very first meeting after the swearing in of this new government, in a public rally in Delhi, Vajpayee ji laid the foreign policy of India towards Israel and Palestine in unequivocal terms. He said that people think that just because there is a change in government, Congress has gone, Janata Party has come, we will now become pro-Israel. So he said this is wrong. India wants Israel to vacate the illegal land that it has occupied. Only then there can be peace in Israel. And Palestinians must have their own homeland with their own territory. This was a clear stand of Atal Bihari Vajpayee as External Affairs Minister, which he stuck to when he became the Prime Minister in 1998.
Right.
So I'm saying all this just to say that India has all along, from before 1947 to 2023, has been in favor of Palestinian independence.
So,
And
but that again, Mr. Kulkarni, you've explained the context very well, who all have said what. It's very, very evident. But why has Prime Minister Modi taken a complete departure from our earlier stand? What do you think is the compulsive reason why he's done so?
let me say two things here. One, that he has probably done so because of his personal friendship, which is very well known, with the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu.
Right.
But I am more than optimistic that in the next few days or as time passes by, India will restate its position that it is in favor of a two-state solution in the land of Israel and Palestine, and India will recommit its support, unequivocal support, to Palestinian independence and Palestinian homeland. I'm absolutely certain about this.
No, you are certain, but that is with respect to the fact that India states its position. So far, External Affairs Minister has just reposted what Prime Minister Modi put out on X on the first day and also on 10th of October. So we do not know what the official stand of India right now is, and especially there is a whole lot of confusion after Prime Minister has taken a particular stand, and obviously now the MEA also doesn't know what to say. But what is the kind of damage you see because of this kind of a stand taken by Prime Minister Narendra Modi? A lot of things are at stake. A lot of things were promised in the recent G20 summit. You have a Middle East, India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor. Has this stand damaged, say the diplomatic efforts which India had taken recently?
This stand so far is a one-sided stand because it only condemns terrorism that was inflicted by Hamas on October 7, and that must be condemned. But it is one-sided because thereafter, Israel has begun retaliatory action, which is even more savage.
Yes.
Which is completely flattening Gaza Strip, where there are 23 lakh Palestinians living, nearly half of them children. Their homes are destroyed, their livelihoods are destroyed, and the defense minister of Israel is on record saying that we will cut off food, electricity, fuel, everything. And that kind of a siege, a blockade has already started. Not only that, the defense minister said that these are human animals and we will treat them like that. Now, this is war crime. What Israel is doing in Gaza Strip is nothing short of a war crime. And India, so far, is mum. Now, it is not just that Israel is doing it after October 7. We should not be blind to the fact that Israeli army, Israeli government has been inflicting such kind of barbarity on civilians of Palestine for decades together. Let me just quote one statistic. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Human Affairs, it's a United Nations body, so nobody can say that it is biased, says, you can go and check on its website, that since 2007, in the various conflicts between Israel and Palestinians, 6,400 Palestinians have died. And this is, of course, before the recent outbreak of violence. 6,400 Palestinians have been killed, as against 318 Israelis killed. Now, anyone can see that there is a complete asymmetry. It is Israel that has initiated this kind of violent attacks on Palestinians, and it is not being held accountable. So therefore, today, Indians, and especially I would urge the Prime Minister of India, because he's our Prime Minister, while rightly condemning the terror attack on Israeli civilians, must also condemn an even more savage attack on the innocent people of Palestine. And if we keep quiet, it has already sent a wrong signal.
But Mr. Kulkarni, there are a number of Indian Muslims staying in various nations across the world. With this kind of a stand, which Prime Minister Narendra Modi has already taken on Palestine and Israel issue, how will it impact them? Because obviously they'll feel more insecure as to what's going to happen. How does it unfold, in that context?
The very grim situation in Israel and Gaza Strip, we do not know whether it's going to escalate and whether the conflict will expand to other territories in the neighborhood. If that happens, then the entire world is going to see far greater destruction, far more deaths with unforeseen consequences. Even what has happened so far has made millions and millions of people, especially people in the Arab world, angry. Because they can see every day, every hour, Gaza Strip being pounded by airstrike by Israeli army. Now, we all know that before these recent developments, there were some attempts to normalize relations between Israel and Arab countries, including Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia has said that we are going to suspend all talks for normalization of relations indefinitely. Now, what is the first casualty of this as far as India is concerned? The India-Middle East corridor, which you mentioned earlier, which was announced on the sidelines of the G20 summit with a lot of fanfare, is now a non-starter. Because this India-Middle East corridor, economic corridor, was going to connect India to the Arab world, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and all that, and then to Israel before going to Europe. Now, with relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel becoming hostile, there is absolutely no chance of this corridor being implemented. This is just one casualty. Second casualty, as you rightly mentioned, at G20, India emerged as a kind of a uniter, that in a divided world, India showed that we can really reconcile differences among various countries on some common issues. So India's role, and including Prime Minister Modi's role, was widely praised. I was recently in China. In many people in China, they praised Modi.
Yes.
Now, if we take a one-sided stand on the Israel-Palestine conflict, obviously India is going to be isolated, alienated from not only the Muslim world or the Arab world, but many countries around the world, so-called global South. We claim to become the leader of the global South. Global South is the name for all the developing and underdeveloped countries, which are non-Western.
Right.
Now today, we are completely on the side of the Western countries, America and Britain and the few Western countries. You
Absolutely.
think with this stand, India can claim to be a leader of the global South? The global South is condemning Israel. Most countries in global South are condemning Israel, and we are keeping quiet.
Those are really pressing questions, and you've explained it very well, Mr. Kulkarni. But just the last lap of the interview I'm coming to, and just a couple of one or two questions related to the domestic politics, because the way the social media is functioning after Prime Minister Narendra Modi took this particular stand, which many say that it was ill-advised, it's one-sided, as you have just said in the interview, but everyone is linking it with the domestic politics because there are elections around the corner in 5 states. You have a general elections coming up in 2024 May, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is trying to tap the politics of Hindutva, is trying to polarize the issue. Are these, this kind of a narrative which is being built, and you see the kind of Islamophobic posts which are being put out, especially after the airstrikes have happened, and especially after the stand which Prime Minister Narendra Modi has taken. So do you think that this Israel-Palestine conflict is really having a direct bearing on the domestic politics of India, and which is why Prime Minister Narendra Modi deliberately has taken the stand which he has taken, sidestepping all what has happened in the past.
We Indians must not view the developments in Israel, the Israel-Palestine conflict, through a religious prism. It is not Jews versus Muslims or Judaism versus Islam. It is a national struggle of Palestinians for independence, which many Jews are also supporting. Many Christians are supporting, and of course, we have seen many Hindus have supported, and that's why I refer to what Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay said, what Atal Bihari Vajpayee said. I wish on one of your programs you should really run that clip. It's just a 1.5 minute clip of Vajpayee's speech. It's an inspiring speech. So I urge all the people who support the BJP to at least take guidance from Deen Dayal Upadhyay ji and Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji. Why are they forgetting their own leaders? And if the BJP today takes a certain position guided by its own internal domestic compulsions of the coming elections, then it is really very short-sighted. The coming elections come and go. India is a large democracy. India is an ancient civilization. The people around the world respect India for the fact that here is a land where people of different religions live together. That is India's greatness.
But Mr. Kulkarni, to you, does it look like all this being connected to the domestic politics, and this is why PM has taken the stand? Of course, we would not see it from the religious prism, but there has to be a compulsive reason why he did so. And everybody is linking it with the elections in 5 states and, of course, the general elections.
India, I repeat, must take a principled stand, a moral stand. We cannot remain mum to what Israel is doing, what the Israeli army is doing. It is a war crime. The Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, is a war criminal. I repeat, Netanyahu is a war criminal, just as Hamas is a terrorist organization. And therefore, the people of India, including the BJP supporters, should look at the situation in a principled manner. As Gandhiji has taught us, as Nehruji has taught us, as Deen Dayal Upadhyay has taught us, as Atal Bihari Vajpayee has taught us. Actually, this Arab-Israel issue, tells us that there is indeed a common ground between the Congress and the BJP. What a amazing convergence in the positions taken by Nehru on the one hand and Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Deen Dayal Upadhyay on the other. Absolutely. Which means that India is capable of taking principled, ethical stand on global conflicts. That is what we should continue.
I'll just take a cue from what you said earlier, that we hope that India will restate its position on the Israel and Palestine issue. So we will wait and watch whether Prime Minister makes another statement or puts out another post. Thank you so much, Mr. Kulkarni. It was wonderful to have you on the program. And one appeal to the viewers who are watching this interview, subscribe to our channel, send us your feedback, and stay tuned to the Federal. Thank you.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.